Hey, it's Inga, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a clematis flower. So with this flower I'm using extra fine crepe from Leah Griffith. All of these colors are from the Secret Garden pack right here, and this came in the March Posy box. So if you got that, great, you're all set to make this flower. You could also use fine crepe, 60 gram from Cartafini. That would probably work as well. So I've got 4 colors here: the purple, the light green, white, and the dark green. So those are the 4 colors that are going to make up this flower. The cool part about making clematis is that there are so many little details that you can vary to get a different look. Of course, you could make different colors. Clematis come in a lot of different colors, but you can also decide what's going to work best for you. Maybe it's a more simple center with just a single color on the petals, or maybe your center has a little bit more detail into it and some interesting coloring effects with oil pastel or pan pastel. Or maybe you choose to use a contrasting stripe on the petal and add some leaves. So there's a lot of options, and I'm going to go over all these things with you. So for the first part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the center. A couple different ways. What you need is an 18 gauge wire. This one's cloth covered. I just like those. You need your needle nose pliers, scissors, glue. I like to use a clip for fringe. I'll show you my trick for that. Optional pastels or pan pastel. There's a few fringe strips that you'll need. This first one is 7.5 inches long by 1.5 inches tall. And there'll be some notes on these measurements, so don't worry, that info will be available. This strip is optional if you want to make this style center. This one is 3 inches long and 2 inches tall. This strip is 14 inches long and 2.5 inches tall. First of all, we'll make a little hook in the end of our wire, just like that. And that'll give kind of a starting point to wrap our fringe around. And leave just a little bit of an opening right there so you can loop it into the fringe, and I'll show you how to do that. So we don't need to stretch it or anything. We'll just fold it just to make the fringing go a little bit faster. I'm going to show you my favorite tip for making fringe a little bit easier. So if you fold your strip very evenly, make sure that the top and bottom are all even and your sides kind of match up. We're going to fringe several layers at once, and my secret weapon for this is using a clip. So I'm just going to clip it maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more is within the clip. So this holds all the layers together so you can cut them at once. And it also kind of gives you a guide for how deep to cut your fringe. And I really like that aspect too. I am a slow fringer. I like to be really exact and slow. So this helps me. If your hands get tired easily, this is also a really helpful thing to make your fringing a little bit easier. So just kind of even this up. You want to make sure all your layers are, sticking together pretty well. They don't have to be exact, but pretty close. And then what I do is I start with just making a little snip on the ends. You're just going up to where the clip is. That way you don't have any little foldy pieces on your fringe. It's all just straight up fringe that you can just use as soon as you unfold. So Now I've got my edges clipped. I'm ready to fringe. This one you really want to go pretty fine. So I'm just gonna start going on down the line and fringing really fine. And don't worry if you cut a little bit too close and some fringes fall off. It's really not a big deal because this will all be squished up so tight that you won't notice if there's some missing. But you do want to get it really pretty fine. This is probably less than 1/16 of an inch that I'm cutting here. And you see how slow I go. Some people can fringe really fast. I am not one of those people. I don't want to get cut by the scissors. These are really sharp scissors too. These are the Kai scissors. So there we go. We're at the end. And we've got this piece of fringe that didn't take too long because it was all folded up. And you can just kind of keep it folded for a minute. And we're gonna tousle and squish and roll and get these little fringes looking a little more natural and organic. So just keep doing that for a minute and it'll get really soft and really rolled up. That looks good. All right, unfold. Now it's glue time. So you just need a little bead near the bottom. It doesn't have to be an exact line the whole way. It can be little dots. That's totally fine. And then we'll just hook it onto the end of the hook here, just like that. Kind of get it stuck to itself. Start rolling. And after I have a couple of rolls here, I'm going to pinch this wire so it's shut at the end. That'll help keep it kind of tapered at the bottom. And just keep rolling and keep it, you know, keep it pretty even. You want this one all at the same height, so, and you want it snug, but you don't need to stretch the paper. Just, you know, pull it just enough so that it stays snug. And then once you're done rolling, give it a good squish. Really get that glue to set in and squish through all the layers of paper. All right, so that's fringe part 1. Now, if you want to make a more simplified center like this one, still very beautiful, you would just go straight to the white fringe after this point. But I'm going to show you how to make this sort of lovely graduated fringe. So it's got just a little bit of green radiating out towards the white. Take my next piece here, and of course the crepe lines are going up and down like that. You want to always keep it like that for fringe. And I'm going to fold it. Even though it's a short piece, I'm still going to fold it because this really does help me quite a bit. Trim the end. There we go. And this one you can do a little bit wider, like maybe 1/8 of an inch. And just fringe away. I actually really love fringing, but because I am kind of slow at it, even though I love it, this technique really helps me. Otherwise, I would just be fringing for hours and hours and hours and not doing anything else. Okay, there we go. So this one we're going to roll a little bit, but not as much as the other one, because we want these little petaloids to be wider at the bottom. So I'm just gonna fringe or roll right at the top and kind of really squish it and roll it. Pinch pretty hard, you know, to get all these little pieces rolled at the end. All right, and usually what I do now is I look to see if there's any that didn't get rolled, so it might need just a little extra pinch. This all looks really pretty good. There's no need to be completely perfectionist about this unless that's what you really enjoy. Then go for it. So I'm happy with this, and now we'll just glue this one onto the center as well. Little dot of glue. There we go. And this one, you can position it just a hair higher. I would say the 1/8 of an inch higher than where you put the bottom of the first fringe. So I don't know if you can see that. Well, it looks like you can. All right, good. So just keep rolling around at that same height and pull just a little bit so that it stays snug. And there you go. Now squish this one. And when you're squishing it, you can feel it. It starts to kind of feel like clay underneath your fingers, and that's kind of a good sign that you are squishing the paper and the glue enough. All right. So when I graduate upwards with the levels of paper or fringe, it kind of helps. It helps to keep this a little bit more tapered, which will be a little bit easier when we're finishing the stem at the end. And we'll also be trimming a little bit of this paper off after the white section as well. So onto the white. So you have a few choices here. You can just leave it plain white. Whoops. Leave it plain white, and this one is just using the plain white, and I think it's beautiful. You can go for a little extra color. So in addition to that second layer of green fringe on this one, there's a little bit of pastel coloring the very bottoms of this white fringe. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm just using oil pastel. We got these in the February Posy box, I believe. And you don't have to actually do the entire strip. We're just put some light color here in the first maybe third of the strip, and be really careful with this paper because it does tear easily. I'm just making some stripes. I'm actually leaving this top part white and just putting some color on the lower edge of the strip. Now I'm going to go in and just put a touch of green as well because I think it looks good that way. All right, that's good. So this will really be showing when you wrap the fringe under this layer of taller green fringe, but the rest of the strip won't really show that much. So I decided that I didn't need to color the whole thing. You could use other colors too. If you have, you know, a light pinkish purple, that would be really pretty, or you know, whatever color you want. Just experiment. So now I'm going to fold this up. I'm going to keep the color side up so that I can keep track of it, and I'll show you why in a minute. So again, just keep it really even. It's a little tricky with a longer strip, but here we go. So I've got it folded up, ready to fringe, and I'm going to put the clip on the colored side. Now I've screwed this up before. If you do it on the wrong side, no big deal. It's still really pretty. Just use the fringe anyways. That's what I say. All right, I'm clipped. We'll slice the edges here. And remember to not go all the way through to the bottom, because then you'll have pieces of fringe. And if you do that, it's okay. You can still use them. It's just easier, I think, when they're all connected as one strip. So again, this can be a slightly wider fringe at about 1/8 of an inch. There we go, it's looking good. And this fringe is going to get the same treatment as that second green fringe, where we're just gonna twist at the very end of the fringe, because that gives them the look of being very tapered at the end and a little wider near the bottom where it joins up with the flower stem. All right, almost there. Voila. Okay. Now with this one, we'll do a little bit of this all bunched up, but really because there's so much paper, it's hard to get each one individually to twist with this big of a paper stack at once. So I'll do a little bit like this, but then I'm going to open it up. You don't have to completely open it up all the way yet. We'll just keep it we'll keep it doubled up. It makes it a little bit faster. That way you just go down and get a few of these at a time. And, you know, remember if there's a few that don't get twisted up, no big deal. It really just depends on your preferences and how you like to make flowers. It's still going to be beautiful, even if not every single piece is twisted. All right, that's looking good. So I'm going to unfold it and make sure that your color portion is the first part that you attach to the stem. So more glue just down near the bottom. You don't need every single part of the strip covered with glue. Dots are fine, but you do want to make sure that there's enough to give you a nice strong base. And with this one, I'm going to go just a hair higher. You can see that there. It's just a tiny bit higher, and I'm going to wrap about half of the strip at that height. And again, you're pulling with just a little bit of pressure so that it's snug, but you don't really need to stretch the paper out. All right, now I'm gonna sort of start spiraling up just a little bit, not a lot. That also helps when you spiral up. It will make the last few rounds seem just a little bit longer, which is what we want, because we're going to be opening up the center so that all the little pieces are splayed out, and we want the ones on the outer layer to be a little bit longer. So now really get in there and just squish this in. Kind of hold it in there, squish it and hold it. Keep doing that, moving it around. Let that glue really set in there. Okay, it's starting to feel kind of like a clay, so that's a good sign that it's ready to trim a little paper off. So I'm just going to pinch this bottom right here And you can see how it kind of sticks out a little bit after pinching. And I'm going to actually trim that off. That helps to keep the middle of the flower from just getting too fat to where it meets the stem. Clematis don't have really much of a transition. They don't really have sepals coming up to hide the part where all the petals attach, so I like to try to keep it you know, kind of skinny so it has more of a tapered look. So I'm just trimming a little bit off there, that part that I pinched off, just giving it a little trim, and that's about it. Now you keep squishing it a little bit more just to make sure everything's all set on there. And before doing anything else with this center, I would let it dry for, you know, half an hour or so. You can cut some more petals or do some other things while this is drying. Go have a snack, whatever you want. So this is one I made earlier. I'm going to show you how far to open the center up. So just go ahead and take the white ones, your white fringe, and really pull it down. It's okay if it goes down a little too far at first, because you can fix it in a minute. But just get things so that they're really starting to lay flat, like the first row is really starting to lay flat. And then if you have the second green row, do the same thing with that. But you can leave this one sticking up just a little bit more. So can you see that? Where the green one sticks up a little bit, the white ones are kind of flat. And now I'll turn it over and just kind of press back these little pieces that want to point downwards, because we don't need them to point downwards. And when we put the petals on too, that'll really help keep them pointing the right direction. So don't worry about it too much, but if they're all pointing downwards, it'll be hard to get your petals on. All right, so there we go. That is the center of the clematis. And in the next section, I will show you how to build and place the petals. And the last section of this tutorial will be how to finish the stems and make some leaves. That's it.